Just a quick recap here. We had been working on this cities component, which was basically just going to be a summary of all the cities that we had in our database, right? I'm going to tweak this a little bit so that there's a little more to it, because right now all we're doing is we're displaying a p tag that has the name of the city in it. But what I also want to be able to do, thanks Stefan, is create like a link for each one of these cities so that we can go to that city's specific page, right? So what I want to do is come up here and import that link component again. So import link from, at reach router. Okay, and then maybe we'll turn this into a little table because we love tables. Yeah. Is this going to let me do autocomplete stuff? Oh, man. I'm so sad. Yeah, there's a way to fix this, but I don't know if I'm going to bother even showing you guys.
So you're going to add it to a snippet?
Here's what I could do. I should be able to go up. You see right now how this file is being interpreted as just JavaScript?
Right.
I could potentially change that so it's being treated as JSX, in which case it should work for us. So here.
So basically change the interpreter?
Yeah, so I could create a little folder up in here called VS Code. And then inside there I can create a settings.json file. And then inside there I'm going to say files.associations. And then basically I want anything inside my source folder, anything .js to be treated as JavaScript React. I think is what I wanted to do here. Yeah, so you can see how that's changed down here, right? Kind of nice. So maybe now I could use my Emmet autocomplete. Yeah, it looks like I probably can. So t-head, if I want some t-heads, times 2. And then, ooh, I meant to have a t-row. And then inside there, I want to have 2 th tags. And then I'll want to go up a couple levels into my t-body. And then a t-row. And then td times 2, right? There we go. Much better. Okay, so here we have in our first column is just going to be the name. In the second column, this will be like an actions column or whatever. And then here, this is where I want my looping to take place, right? So I'm actually going to move this map function up in here. And I'm going to wrap that tr. So let's just pull this up inside here. Okay. Instead of a p tag, I'm going to have my link tag up in here. So I'll have link, and then inside the link tag again, I want to have my city.name, right? And then we'll have a couple buttons here inside our second TD. So I'll have button would be, the first one is going to be like an edit button, right? And then we'll have another button that is for deleting this particular one. All right. Now I can get rid of this p tag, right? Don't need that anymore. And then where do I need to add the key? Does anyone know? I am going to need a key because again I'm mapping. Where does that go? It's going to it has to be the outermost element inside this mapping function. Yes, it's going to be the tr. So key equals index again. Actually, in this case, I can probably use something else for a key. Do you guys know what it is?
ID?
What about the city's ID, right? So I can say city._ID. Why am I saying underscore ID?
Because the ID is auto-generated by MongoDB.
Yeah, because when it's coming from our database, so it has that underscore in it, right? All right, cool.
Yes, you also need to change the parameter. You put the docs function in your back function, right? The CI.
Well, I can actually get rid of the I. If I'm not using the index at all, I can just make it only city. So I'll do that. We'll just say we're taking in a city. Okay. And then I want this link to be dynamic, right? So that it actually goes to the correct city. So I'm going to say to, that's the path that we're trying to go to. And then I need to do this in curly braces. Anyone know why?
Because it's JavaScript.
It's going to be a JavaScript expression. It's going to have a string in it, but also the ID. So we'll say /cities, and then I'll just tack on this city._ID. Okay. And let's save that and see what that's looking like in our browser. Whoops. So let's go back. Where are we? Yeah, I do have a few tabs. Okay. Okay, there we go. So that's looking pretty good. And then if I roll over these links, I'm correctly seeing city/whatever that ID is, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So now we don't yet have a page for each individual city, so that's probably a good thing to build. And it'll be super easy to do. So let's go inside of our views here, and let's just create a city.js. I need my React. Okay, what else am I probably going to need here? Yes, why is that? I'm going to need a couple things. I'm going to need use effect and use state. Why?
The use effect is you want to only fetch the API once.
Yeah.
And use state is you want to probably have like added or delete feature inside the email page.
So at a higher level, the reason why I'm going to need those guys is because when I first go to this page, I'm not going to have any of my city's information yet, right? We actually need to reach out to our backend and go get that first. That's why we need to bring those two things in. That's going to allow us to, our use effect will say we can make this API call one time, and then use state is like I can change the state of the city to something that now I have its actual data. So let's bring those guys. Effect, use state from React. Okay. And then we also know we're going to make an API call, so let's bring in Axios, right? Axios. Now let's create our component. So const city equals a component. What do we think we're going to take in the props for the city? Let's just take in the ID, right? Because we're going to use that ID to then go and make a call with Axios and get all the data from our backend. So I'm going to destructure that right here. And then inside here, let's create some states. So we'll say something like const city set city equals use state. And initially, I'm just going to say our city is null, meaning that I don't have it yet, right?
Quick question.
Yeah.
When you actually receive the ID value, is it like the object ID value, or is it just actually the string value?
Well, aren't those two things the same thing? What do you mean oh, you mean the actual string that has object ID in it?
Yeah.
No, it's not going to say object ID. It will be the actual ID string. Yeah.
It's going to be from the props, right?
Yeah, so this is coming from our props, which we're going to get from essentially from reach router, right? Inside that router, we're going to have a wildcard, the :ID, which is just saying what is the ID of this particular city. All right, so now let's, go ahead.
We're not getting the ID directly from our database directly.
Well, in other words, I need to know it ahead of time at least to make that API call, right? Because what if I make the API call and I don't know what the ID of this particular city is? Well, how am I going to identify it to our backend? We have to tell our backend, I'm looking for this specific city, and therefore we're going to pass a specific ID to it so that it can do the lookup for us, right? All right. So now what we want to do is we want to invoke this use effect so that we can make our API call, right? And then inside there, we're going to pass a callback. I got to remember to do the empty array here. And then we're just going to say Axios dot get, and our path is going to be API/cities, and then I want to tack on the ID right there, right? So like ID. Okay. And now let's remember how to handle this .then, because I kind of blew it this morning. So we're getting back a response, right? And then what we want to do is we want to say set city against response dot data. That's correct, right?
And do you have to include the HTTP to fetch the
Oh shoot, yes I do, because we're using cores. God dang it. I wish we weren't. Alright. So yeah, let's include the protocol here and everything. So HTTP localhost 4500. Okay, so that's all good. And then now that I've kind of done my use effect call down here, I can ask myself a question. Do I have the city data yet? If I don't have it, probably I don't want to try to display a bunch of stuff about it, right? So let's just say something like if not city, or if you want to say if city equals null, then maybe we'll return something just saying loading. Not very exciting. Probably like in a real project, you guys would have some sort of a spinner or whatever, just indicating that something's going on, right? Yeah, so loading, ... All right, and then if we get past that, what that means is that I have successfully gotten my city, right? And now I can actually render something out about it. Make sense? So here, let's just return. I'll put a div tag here, and then inside that div tag, let's do an h1 that has the name of the city. Oh, why does it do that? Okay, and then the other thing that I'm going to want is probably to show what the population is, right? Because that's something that we're keeping track of here. So population. Okay, and then city.population. All right. And then finally, I want to show this image somewhere. So image src. Now, do I want to do this inside strings, or do I want to do this inside curly braces? Yes, why? Specifically, it's a JavaScript expression, right? It's going to be like city.image URL, so that's a JavaScript expression, so we need those curly braces. So city.image URL, and then I have to close this image tag because, again, we are in JSX. Okay, and then don't forget to export this guy, because sometimes I forget that too. City. You forget it all the time. Yeah, and then you'll get some kind of error inside your console saying, React expects an object or a string or something like that got undefined or whatever, right? Something along those lines. Cool. So now that we've got our city component, let's plug this in to our app. So let's go back to our app.js and let's import that. So import city from .views/city. All right. And now what I want to do is I just want to make this route up here city path equals cities/:ID. What's that :ID mean? It's essentially saying this is a bit of a wild card right here. It's a placeholder value. We're going to call it ID, but we don't know exactly what its value will be ahead of time, right? Okay. Think of it like a routing parameter. That's probably the best way. All right, so if we go back to our cities here, theoretically we should be able to click on something and go to its page, right? Oh, awesome. That's pretty cool. Go back to my list and I can go to Burbank. Nice. Purdy. Yeah, for sure. Cool. So there are a couple other things we want to be able to do, right? We want to be able to delete a city. So let's handle that because that's probably going to be fairly simple, right? Not too heavy. So let's go to our cities component again. And then inside here, I'm probably going to want to create some kind of function that will allow me to delete a city, right? So I'll just say function handle delete. What do you guys think I want to pass to that handle delete? An ID, exactly. I need to know which one I'm deleting. So take in an ID. Okay. And then what I want to do is I want to say axios dot delete. And then again, we got to type in this long address here. I'm just going to steal it, swipe it. Okay, and then we want to concatenate the ID to that, right? ID. Okay, and then what are we going to do inside of our dot then? So let's say that we successfully deleted this item. What might we want to do with our existing cities here? Take it out of it, right? Like let's filter these guys so that they no longer have this one and we just delete it. Good. So inside here, I'm just going to say set cities. Actually, let's make it a bigger callback so you guys can see a little bit better. So I'll create a variable called new cities. Okay. I'm going to take the existing cities and I'm going to filter them. Okay. Now, if you guys remember how the filter function works, this is going to take in what? No. Okay, yeah, criteria in a way, but specifically, what are we trying to put inside there? Filter takes what? Remember those functions that we were talking about in functional programming? We have for each, the map, and the filter. It's a callback. Yeah, exactly. We're going to have a callback function which will determine whether or not I'm going to keep each individual city. Okay? So that callback function will look like something like this. It will take in a city, and then I'm going to return whether the city dot underscore ID does not equal that ID that I just took in my function. Okay? So if this returns a true, that means that that's a city that I want to hang on to, right? I want to kind of keep it in my list. And then what we can do, now that we have this list of new cities, I can then call this function right here to update our overall list. So let's do that down here. We'll just say set cities, and then I'm going to pass in this new cities array. Okay. Now down here for the actual delete button, let's add that in there. So we're going to say on click, and then am I just going to put handle delete in there? would that work? Anyone know? You're right. Yeah, exactly. So if I pass this function in here, this function is expecting an ID. What would it actually get if I left it like this? It would get the event, which is not going to be very useful for our handle delete function, right? So instead what I can do is I can create an inline function right inside here which invokes handle delete against that specific ID, right? Which should actually be city dot underscore ID in this case. Can you guys see that okay now? All right. Real quick, Mike, why are we doing this again? I want to emphasize this pretty heavily.
So that we know what to delete, what city to delete.
Exactly. Because if I just pass in handle delete, it's getting what? It would by default get what handed to it? Event, right? It would get the actual click event, which is not something that I want. I want the actual ID here. All right. Good. Let's give that a shot real quick.
What if you add one line, so the prevent default to the handle delete, and nothing can happen,
Oh, you mean if that's all that I put inside here? I took in the event and I just said event.prevent default.
Yeah, so that's what gonna happen, right? If you click that.
Well, it would still continue to run the rest of the code. So if I had inside this method event.prevent default and then I had this call here, this would still run because I haven't returned out of the function, right?
Alright.
We'll still go through this stuff. Yeah.
So which theoretically, if you pass in an ID down there and you put a prevent default, it will still work.
Right. So the prevent default in this case is not really necessary because those buttons are not inside any kind of form.
Oh, I see.
If they were inside a form, we'd want to stop the form from submitting in its normal way, but
I see.
we don't have them inside the form. All right. So let's try to give this a shot. San Francisco. Sorry to see you go. I know, it makes me really sad. It had to be done. Had to be done.
Make it again.
Make it again. Good call. Let's do it. Oops. I'll have to get a new image URL though. 850. Okay. Images. San Fran. Oops. Okay, let's see. What is my image URL here? Copy image address. Let's do this one. Okay, cool. Now we can go back to it. All right. Recreated. All right. Fair enough. So we're in good shape. We can pretty much do almost everything. We can read everything. We can delete. We can create. Only thing that we haven't handled yet is editing, right? All right. So let's go about creating that guy. I'll come into my views component, or my folder, I should say, and then we'll create edit city.js. All right. Same stuff I need here, right? So I'm going to need React, and I'm also going to need use effect, use state. Remind me again why I need all that stuff. Shazay, why do I need these? Okay. And also, when I first get to this page, am I going to have the data about my city?
No.
Sure? No, not yet, right? I'm actually going to need to go and make a call to my backend to go get that data, right? Same kind of loading stuff, right? So up here, we know we're going to make this API call, so let's go ahead and bring in Axios.
Also, like, why is it from once we like incorporated all the pieces and structured the folder
Right, right.
Okay, I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Okay, like once we integrated both React and Express and stack, why is it that we changed our folder structure name to views versus components?
So it's not that we've left components in the dark. What's happening here is that we now sort of have a multi-page application, even though it's truly an SPA, right? Really a single-page application, but we now have different views and we have different URLs. So that's why we've created this views folder, which is to really highlight the fact that we can kind of go to these separate pages. Now, if I had components that were shared across these different views, it would probably make sense to put them inside the components folder, right?
That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So inside here, we pretty much want to do the same stuff, right? We're going to say initially that city is going to be null because we don't have it yet. So city set city equals use state, and then we'll just pass it null. Okay. And then we're going to do our use effect to go and get the city data. So use effect, it's going to take in this callback, and then the callback function is going to do our axios.get, and we'll go, whoops, I need to remember to do this every time. Localhost 4500 API /cities and then / whatever this ID was, again, that I'm taking in as a prop, right? You guys remember who's giving it this prop? Which component this is actually coming from?
Cities?
It's coming from app.js, right? So when we're going to have a path, the colon ID is just saying that's what that prop value should be. Okay? Okay. So inside of our edit city, we're making this call, and then when it comes back, again, I'm going to have a response, and then we're going to say set city against the response.data, right?
Can you go back to the previous page again? With the
App.js?
yeah.
Sure.
Wait, so because it's a router element, when
So it truly is our component, but what reach router is going to do is it's going to pass in that ID through to us so that we have access to it.
so is that actually going to be like a prop set ID or just going to be just flat out ID?
Yeah, it's props.id. I destructured it, but that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Sure, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I haven't put in my edit city route yet, but we will do that kind of like once we're decently finished with this view. So let's go back to where we were. And once that's done, I'm just replacing whatever I had in my city initially, which would be null, right? I'm replacing it with the actual data that I got back from my database. And then let me add this little empty array. So we just do it one time. Okay. And then what other kind of state am I going to need inside this form here? Anything? I could, I guess, theoretically get away with just having it like this.
I mean, well, if you want to store the value, you want to store, or you want to present.
Like a pre-populated,
Yeah, we do want to pre-populate, right? And so I'm thinking we could stick with this, unless you guys had some real problem with that and you wanted to do like a separate form state or whatever. The form state is essentially going to be this data right here, right? It'll be exactly the same. So I think we could probably just stick with that. All right, so let's do our little question here. So if city is null, then what do we want to do? Return loading. Yeah, just let the user know that everything's not ready. Oops.
So that part I'm a little confused. So
Okay.
the reason why you're doing that is because the previous line of code is a promise and that it can go to the next line without it being repeated. And so you just wanted something to display.
Well, use effect itself is not a promise, but this axios.get is, right? That's going to return us a promise. Yeah, so in other words, when this gets called, there's certainly no guarantee that by the time I get down to this line of code, that city has been set for us.
Okay, so that's why you just want, just in case it's like delay, you don't want white space.
Yeah, because what if I'm down here and I'm trying to render out my form and I'm saying something like city.name or whatever? Do I even know that data yet? I don't have it. So that's when you're going to run into trouble because right now city is set to null. So if I try to say like null.name, that's when your application breaks. It's not going to work.
Once the promise gets completed, how does it wipe out the return load? Or is it because it gets ran again?
Yeah, because once we've actually made a change to the state here, it's going to run back through our code and re-render.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's, if I've gotten past this line, that means that I have all of my city data, and I'm just basically going to grab some of the stuff that I had in my other form. Okay, let's take all of this here, save that, and then in my edit city, let's drop that in there. Now, all of these spots where I'm saying form state, what should those actually say now?
Cities.
Yeah, well, it should just be city. It's not even like city state anymore, but I should just be able to replace these guys with city. Okay. All right, that's cool. I don't have my onChange handler, so I should probably grab that as well, right? Because I do need that. Oops. New city. We may have to make some tweaks to it. Okay, go back to our edit city. Okay, and then instead of form state, what do I want to replace that with? City. So that means we'll hang on to all the current data that we have for city and then just specifically replace one key value pair, right? All right, and then I'm also going to need that handle submit function, which is probably going to be slightly different, but let's grab what we have so far. Okay, and then here, so I'm no longer going to make a post request. What kind of request am I going to make? Put request. Okay, and then instead of just API/cities, I want to incorporate the ID at this point, right? So I've got that from my props that I took in up at the top. So we do have reference to ID, and I'm going to use that. And then, excuse me. So instead of passing in the form state as the data, what data do I need to give to it? City, right? The actual city that I'm currently editing. All right. And then we'll leave our .then. This is probably fine. So once we've made an edit, let's just go back to the main one and see if everything changed, right? So if I change the name, it should change it for me on the main page. All right, so let me save that. And then I think I forgot to export it, which I always do. Export, edit, default. Sure. You mean the handle submit part? 21? Yeah. Because the second argument is the data that I want to pass along with my request. The data is now whatever the user has updated, however the updated city looks, according to whatever the user typed, right? So this is just the data that's going along with my request. And again, this is the route that we're making the request to. Does it make sense? Or no?
Not right now.
Okay.
Can you take off the con city?
Here, let me do this actually. Let me take off the sidebar so there's no wrapping going on. Okay, so we're making a put request to this entire route, which includes the ID in it, and then the data that's getting sent along with our put request is this city right here.
Oh, okay.
Because we're allowing the user to essentially update it in real time, theoretically.
Right.
Although it hasn't really been persisted in the database until this call is completed. Right? All right, so that's looking pretty good. So now if we go back to our app.js, I should be able to import this component. So import edit city from views edit city. And then the path that I want this to be on is probably going to be something like edit city. Path will be cities/ID/edit.
So, question.
Mhm.
You don't need a forward slash for the router path, but you do need a forward slash for the link, right?
Yes, there is one instance in which you would want a forward slash, which is when it's the index route. So, like, let's say I had an index component. Oops.
So I just put it.
I would say path equals forward slash like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. So now my path is there, and then if I go back to my cities component where we're mapping through them, I just need to have some kind of a button handler here, right? When I click on the edit button. So we'll say onClick equals an inline function which navigates us. Did I bring in navigate here? Yeah, I did. Okay. Which is going to navigate us to cities / whatever this ID is, right? Excuse me. And then I also need to tack on this edit at the end to say that I'm trying to go to the edit page. Okay, so let's see if that's working as we... I guess I didn't replace some stuff inside my edit city. So inside here, where was our form? Okay, so we said set form state. We should actually be saying set city, right? And then what was the other thing I said?
Navigate.
Oh, navigate's not defined?
Yeah.
Oh, indeed it's not. Yeah. I don't know why I was thinking I brought that in. Navigate from reach router. Alright, so let's try that again. Let's try to go to edit San Francisco. Okay, that looks nice. It's pre-filling all of our information for us, right? And then let's see how if I change the name, some new name, submit that. There you go. It changed for us. Okay, some new name. I can edit it, make it back to what it was supposed to be. Cool. That's the whole thing. So we did everything. We did create, read, update, and delete, right? What'd you say?
Lucky Dredge.
Oh, we didn't do that. Yeah, but that's not going to be on the exam. I can tell you guys that. Login reg won't be on the exam.
I have a quick question. There's no like code reviewer for the React guy, or the MERN part. I didn't see one.
Is there one up yet, Tanner?
Which I mean makes sense. It's cool, but will we be getting?
The plan is to get one up there, yeah, and you know, by the, you know, at least like a couple days before you guys are gonna take it. So yeah, hang tight on that. Sorry about that. Are there any specific spots you guys would like to kind of read over or talk about here?
Honestly, like for me, I'm still lost in that put.
Oh, really? This?
Yeah, because I guess it's the first time I saw like a second argument being passed, and then the Axios methods.
Right.
I mean, I guess it makes sense because it's a put request, right? So it says.
There are different ways that you can write these Axios ones. I think the dot put is actually a convenience method. You could also say something like Axios, and then inside there you could have an object which said method equals put, and then you could say data equals whatever you wanted the data to be.
So then, like, how is the post working? The Axios.post.
Well, the post was working the same way, right? We were passing it a, let me go to my new city here. So here we were passing the URL that we wanted it to be sent to and the form state, which is the actual data. So we did send the data.
Yeah, no, yeah, I think I was having a brain fart.
Okay, no worries.
I was gonna that.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't make sense.
Right. So one thing that we kind of didn't do today, and I was thinking we'll probably do when we come back on Tuesday, is we didn't really handle validations, right? So if something is wrong on the back end, well, you know, probably we need to let the user know that you messed up. The other thing, the other thing that we probably want to do here is, if you notice there was a little bit of code, we're kind of repeating ourselves in a way. Did you guys notice how I was copying and pasting a lot?
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you think that maybe there's a way that we can make that a little bit cleaner?
Maybe mapping through.
Say that again.
Mapping.
Map? Well, so the place that we were generally copying and pasting was inside our new city and also our edit city, right? Like that's where there was some repeating going on there. So maybe this concept of React components, that's something that we can apply to that spot, right?
So like reuse the component.
Yeah, like a reusable form maybe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's something that I wanted to explore with you guys early next week. And it's not critical that you do it, you know, like on the exam, for instance, but it'll be a nice thing for you guys to get familiar with and sort of understand. Yes?
Are we ever gonna have like a demo on context, or is context like?
I gave you a demo. It was just kind of short.
Oh, I meant my bad. I probably missed it.
Were you not there?
I might have missed it. Okay. So is it on YouTube as well?
Mm-hmm.
I believe I didn't see it.
I think it was the same day that I introduced use effect. Yeah, and in hindsight, I kind of wish that I had split those into two separate things. But, you know,
Yeah.
I'll know for next time. But yeah, that's when it was. If you look on YouTube, look out for use effect and context. They were in one thing together. Yeah. Cool. All right, thanks guys. Keep it up.